What is up, you guys? It is Alessandro Koenig, and this is Conan's Cave. We have a special guest with us, Ryan Z.
Thanks for having me, Conan. I'm stoked to be here.
Today, we're going to be talking about fitness, dieting, bodybuilding, just Ryan's whole career and everything he's been through and the lessons he's learned, so we can educate you guys and help you out with any questions you have. So tell us about yourself, Ryan. What got you into bodybuilding?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose bodybuilding? Tell us about your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like a lot of people, I just kind of had a humble beginning, right? I was one of those kids that kind of grew up with a little more body fat. Nothing uncommon if you really think about it, especially now looking back. But at that time, especially being that kid, you don't see it that way. You just see yourself as kind of chunky, bigger. The rest of your peers are all, much smaller. And you're like, okay, there's got to be something that I'm doing wrong. And in retrospect, I was eating right for it, So by 13, I remember as early as 13, which is kind of sad, being upset with how I looked, being upset at where I was at. Not to the point where I devalued myself, right? It was nothing like that, but I was just, this body does not fit me. I want to start doing something about it. So from that point on, thankfully, my parents got me into weight training. They got me a trainer. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was just kind of going through the motions. But that's where I kind of caught the bug. So I would have to go as far back as 12 years old to really remember a time in my life where I wasn't at the gym. Where that turned into bodybuilding really was not too long ago. It was actually not even my idea. It was a challenge from a friend who wanted to do a competition. And she's like, hey, you should do this competition with me. At this point, I had already been weight training, doing everything like that for the longest time. I was like, okay, well, what would happen if I worked out this much harder and I ate this much cleaner? The 2 years prior, I had done 75 hard every single year. I was on track to do it for the third year again. I was like, well, what if instead of doing it again for the third year, this is my 75 hard? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I ended up going through the whole process, getting myself a coach for the first time since I was like 15, right? Because I learned everything that I needed to learn, and then I just started doing my own thing. So got a coach, and after a couple of months of prep, I was able to win my first ever competition, earning my pro card in the OCB.
That's incredible. How long ago was that?
That was back in December. In December, I did my first show, won, earned my pro card, and then I just finished competing again in June. So I'm fresh off of prep. I'm going into my off season. I did not win that one, let it be known. But what a journey.
And what got you this far into the journey? Like, why'd you want to continue pursuing bodybuilding? Did you just get really into it for a specific reason?
Kind of, yeah. If I'm being honest, if you had asked me even just 1 year ago, today to the T, 1 year ago, I had zero intention of ever competing in bodybuilding. It wasn't even on my radar. I would have even adamantly told you I don't want to do it. My brother was really passionate about it. He hadn't competed, but he liked the idea. And he kind of loosely mentioned it like, hey, Ryan, you should bodybuild. I was like, nah, nope, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Absolutely not going to happen. What I ended up falling in love with was the fact that, fine, I almost succumbed to peer pressure, right? Not really, but kind of. I was intrigued. I was like, okay, sure, why not? What I found was the rest of my life, not just the bodybuilding part, the rest of my life got so much better because I cut off all distractions. I couldn't, I'm on a meal plan, so I can't go out to eat with anybody. I can't go out to drink with anybody. I cut off alcohol. So it's like, okay, all of my time is now being spent on my career, which is, real estate and mortgages, and fitness, which is my passion. So every single day for me revolved around my work and my health and fitness. Funny enough, over the course of enough time of doing that, even my business started doing so much better, right? Because it cut off everything that didn't serve it. By the time I finished the first competition, I thought I was going to be one and done. I genuinely thought I was just going to do the one competition and be done with it. I had no plan. I'm not trying to make my name in bodybuilding or anything like that. But I was so hooked after I finished the first one at how much better the rest of my life got that I was like, I don't even know what competition I'm going to do next. But I told my coach, hey, let's just keep it rolling. We'll figure out what competition we do next, but I don't want to stop. I've built so much momentum. I don't want that to stop. Let's keep it going. That's how I got hooked. It's because everything in life just seems to do so much better when you're firing on all cylinders.
Right? I mean, especially when you find something that you figure out that, hey, I'm kind of good at this. Like, I can keep this for the long term. And it becomes like a healthy hobby into your life, right? Where you can balance out your work and now you can do this. And it's like an outlet for you, essentially.
Well, it was already kind of like I was saying, it was already something that I was kind of doing, just not to this level. So once I finished competing, what am I supposed to forget everything that I learned? You can't put that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah,
even after I finished my second competition, I would joke with my girlfriend. I'm like, I feel like a recovering calorie counter, right? Because I can't help but pretend I don't know what's in this meal. I look at every meal and I see the numbers behind it. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. So it's just my life is probably forever changed for the better. And one really cool thing about that is, regardless of whether I continue to compete, which, full disclaimer, I do intend to continue to compete. But if the time comes where it's just not fun for me anymore, I know that if the situation ever came where I, decided to really kind of let myself go, enjoy life for a couple months, travel, whatever the situation might be, if I finish that and I say, it's time to get shredded again, I could. Like the flip of a switch. It's tedious, but once you know the steps, it's a really cool, amazing thing to have that kind of control over your body and your physique.
100%. So tell us about your biggest vice, sugar. How did you get in control with it?
We were talking about my relationship with sugar, and I didn't even used to care for sugar. I think the very first time that I had one of the cheat meals allowed by my coach, I went and got cheesecake, and something just flipped in my head. And then it's continued to this point. But I'll tell you what, even more so than sugar, I wouldn't even call that my vice, and I have it well in check. I do have it well in check. More so than that, it's portion control. And that's one thing that bodybuilding really, really forces you to keep in check. Even prior to competing in bodybuilding and doing all that, I would have told you that I ate really clean, really healthy, and I did. I just ate a lot. To this day, if left unchecked, I can eat the right things, but I'll eat way more of them than I should. I could easily, on any given setting, put down a cup of rice, 16 ounces of chicken, a pound of broccoli, have some hummus on the side, a whole avocado, and I could do that like multiple times. Before you know it, I could hit 4,000, 5,000 calories and have room for more. So it's the portion control. It's forcing myself to be like, no, you're going to get 8 ounces of chicken today, and you're going to do half a cup of rice. And, for breakfast, instead of doing 6 eggs, you're going to do 2 eggs and some egg whites. It's managing portion control that I would say was the biggest vice that I had to conquer.
It's awesome, man. I love that. And then genetics with nutrition and fitness. So what's your opinion on how big of a role genetics plays in fitness and nutrition? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I think it plays a big part, but I also would say it's almost not even worth commenting on. Only because what do you really gain by measuring your genetics to somebody else? You can't do anything about it. It's cool for comparison's sake if you can genuinely, from a good place in your heart, be like, the genetics on this person, phenomenal. Mine might be different, but so what? Everybody can achieve such a phenomenal physique truly with, disclaimer, with, let's call it 0.01% of people that really might have some kind of issue, whatever it might be that, just makes it impossible to get an ultimately shredded physique. The rest of them can. It just might look a little bit different. You might look a little bit different at your peak than I do at my peak. But what's the point? What's the point in comparing or pointing fingers at like, well, you just got good genetics? The other thing that I've found is everybody says you have really, really good genetics when you're shredded. But nobody says that when, you are either really skinny or really fat. Nobody's saying that. Do we really even understand somebody's genetics all that well? We just make assumptions. And it's more the habits than it is the genetics, I think, more often than not.
Yeah, that's why it's so toxic, because people see that and they're like, no, I want to take gear because I want to match his genetics or have better genetics than him. And they think that they can use chemicals to do that. And they have no idea that it's long-term, like eating properly first and foremost, hitting your natural peak while you're eating healthy, because then you understand how your body's programmed with certain foods. And then you add in that play of like maybe doing a little bit of gear and seeing what happens. But my opinion, I would say completely stay away from it. Mm-hmm. But when you talk to any specialist that actually knows about gear and is recommending it to anybody, they're always saying like, hit your natural peak, know your body first. But a lot of people in the industry jump that gun and they rush it and they go, oh, I should start gear now. I'm only a year in the gym. I'll just take it right now. And that's when you get all these horrible side effects. That's when you really start harming your health, and it gets very dangerous. But I see that a lot currently with the youth in this industry, just like posting it on TikTok, posting it on Instagram, because they think it's very cool to show people themselves getting injected, right? So
It's funny how I find that it's usually always somebody who's on gear who gets somebody else who's not on gear, right? It's never somebody that's natural. It's like, you should take gear. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it never seems to actually go that way. A natural person telling another natural person, hey, you should really take this.
Right.
I'm not going to take it, but you should. No, it's always somebody that's already kind of taking it, you know? And now my view on gear in and of itself has evolved from before. I mean, I am a natural athlete. I will always be a natural athlete. And once upon a time, if you had asked me, I did not have a very great opinion about gear, TRT, any of that. I mean, I also had a very little understanding of it. So take that with a grain of salt. But over the course of enough time, I've become a little more mellow on the subject. Everybody can do whatever they want to do. And especially if somebody truly does want to compete in the IFBB, wants to be Mr. Olympia, something along those lines, then okay, well, it'd be ridiculous to say you're going to achieve that without it. But that's the game that you're playing. Now, if you're just playing the game of life and you want to be on gear, I still don't really much see it. But I have grown to really not condemn anybody for choosing it for themselves. Just trying to be more sympathetic towards everybody. But I would encourage everybody to still try to see what the body can achieve naturally, because I think you can do so many great things. Your body can do so much on a natural level that physique that you're looking for that seems to be on gear is almost one that's really just for you. There's a very select, tiny, tiny niche amount of people that I think really consider that look to be the more desirable one. But yeah, did I answer the question?
Yeah, no, of
Somewhat.
course. I mean, no, I totally agree. I like what you said, how you're sympathetic towards it, because at the end of the day, it's everyone's life, right? Everyone lives a different life, and you can never judge somebody for choosing something that makes them happy, because only God knows what truly makes them happy. And if that's what they signify it as, then I'm all by all means, do you. But as people that, know a little bit about gear, even though you haven't taken it before, you know a little bit about it. It's good to spread awareness. Hey, this is why you shouldn't take it. I'm not going to judge you for taking it, but this is why you shouldn't go this route. You should go this route because I'm natural and look what I've achieved, right? So that type of advice is really what helps people out, because then they realize that, hey, my best influencer, he's on drugs and I don't need to look like that. I can still look like this because that's achievable, No,
100%. I think...
because that's what it is, It's just they're looking at that really good, in shape influencer, and they're like, yeah, I can achieve what he has. And it's most of them are on gear, and people do look up to that, and they want to start taking it because they see stuff like that. And it's you can achieve something near that natural if you would just put in the work and take the time to do so.
I mean, I'm telling you, if you were to look at the video of my most recent competition, which was the Scorcher for the OCB, an all-pro competition, especially men's physique, some guys look freaking massive. It's so impressive. Now, mind you, no, not IFBB massive, but I think they looked shredded and big enough to where it'd be plausible to say these guys might be on something. They're not. It's drug tested. But that for somebody to look so good that you question it is something impressive. Right? I think it's something absolutely amazing. And I agree. I'm not trying to condemn anybody that's on gear. I've grown to just understand it better, right? And to each their own. And I won't speak towards something that I've never done myself. I feel like I only have the right to talk about it so much.
What type of man do you want to be? Do you want to be the man that people look up to because you're somebody who has put in massive work into your physique and your physical performance, but you've never touched drugs before, right? Or do you want to be the man that is hindering his life because he's on drugs to impress other people? It's you got to figure out what type of person you want to be. And the same thing with life, right?
Yeah.
It's whether you want to be rich or middle class or just low class. It's just dependent upon the life you want to live, But every avenue has a route that you got to take. And it's the most pure route, being rich, being natural, it's going to be both the hardest routes.
Yeah.
People don't want to take that route because it takes too long to achieve the goal.
Yeah.
But it's the most worthwhile.
And you know what? To that, I think a lot of people also, it really comes down to how they carry themselves with it. I think a lot of people, like if you're embarrassed to admit that you're on gear, maybe you shouldn't be on it, right? But if you own it, you're like, absolutely, I'm on gear, right? You better believe it. And this is why I'm on it. You know what? I'm about it. Heck yeah, why not? Like, because at least there you can see the goal, you can see their vision, and you know what? Who am I to pick? It's not my goal or my vision, but it is theirs. And at least they're not hiding anything. They're being completely open and transparent. You can make the argument that, whether somebody is on gear or not is not anybody's business, but for the sake of being an example to others, yeah, it can be a little tough when you're claiming to be a natural when you're not. The other thing that I've found that a lot of times when somebody is on gear that they talk about is, well, you still need to diet. You still need to work out a lot, right? Like people think that just because you're on gear, you're shredded. Well, no, but it helps a hell of a lot. It helps so much. Let's not downplay how much it does, right? I know people personally that we've been working out side by side and they started taking gear in almost instant 20 pounds, right? I didn't actually weigh them, but you get what I'm saying. Like before you know it, they swole to levels where it's like, okay, what's up? Now, sure, they still worked out. They still ate. Okay. I also have found that it gives you a lot more free passes with what you eat because you just blow up. You can get away with eating certain things, I think, not necessarily to compete, but just if you want to be on gear and shredded at the gym, you can get away with eating probably not quite as
I would
clean.
say the guy with the best steroid genetics, and I say steroid genetics because not everybody can handle steroids. And I mean, like, even if you take them for a while and you think you're getting used to it, like, there's some people that still can't handle that in general. So if you are a steroid genetic person that can take gear and respond super quick, hyper responder, then heck yeah, you could probably eat some Twinkies like Ronnie Coleman and just get freaking crazy, right? But that's another crazy thing too. People hear what you just said and like, oh, yo, I can take gear now and I can just eat whatever, thinking they have those genetics. And it's like, you don't, because if you had those genetics, you'd already be natural having people question that you're on gear, and then you'd be like so addicted to that attention, you want to start taking it and looking better. And that happens to some people. You see some people looking insane. Understand this, when they look natural, they look pretty crazy too.
Yeah.
Not as crazy as they do on gear, but it's always been something that I've taken key notice to. Like the guys that look really, really great on gear, they look great natural. They just have really good genetics. And so when people really understand that it's not just the gear doing all the work, I think that's a better, approach as far as like people hearing the best advice that they could hear about gear is like, all right, like, it's not going to do all the work. I got to have genetics too. Oh, wait, I don't have good genetics. Maybe I shouldn't take it. And now you have somebody that's like stepping away from that, edge because they are aware that their body just can't handle it. And it's also like, if you're not going for Mr. Olympia, it's not worth it, and obviously like everyone has their thing that makes them happy, but that's a great point that you made.
I think that's what I'm always just going to keep coming back to, if I'm being honest. If you're not competing, what are you doing? If you're not competing, what are you doing? Or if, again, maybe if you are a fitness model or Hollywood actor, which I'm assuming most people that are probably hearing this are not, I don't see it. Now, just because I don't see it doesn't mean there might not be an underlying reason there, but it does make me question whether or not it is the right reason. I can keep going down the existential rabbit hole of like, well, what is right? What is wrong? But now I'm just saying, from my perspective, I don't see it. If you don't fall under those specific categories, I don't see the allure.
How do you maintain your work-life balance with being a real estate agent and then competing and just being a bodybuilder in general? Like, how does that work out for you?
So to be really specific, I'm a loan officer, but the way that it works out, frankly, is most of the things that I do really, really early. I wake up at 4 a.m. every day so that I can hit the gym right around 5. I knock out my workout, and I enjoy being at the gym. A lot of times people talk about really having to drag themselves out of bed. I kind of jump out of bed, a little giddy, excited because I'm about to go and get an awesome workout. I'm really excited about it. And then same thing, usually later at night is when if I have to, or if I feel compelled to do a little bit of cardio, a little bit of run, a session on the Stairmaster, I do it late in the evening as well. Now, what's nice about my line of business as well is there's a lot, especially as a loan officer, that I have to do in front of a computer, but I also have a team. I have processors. I have, my team of underwriters. I have assistants. So outside of certain aspects of my business that do require me to be in front of a computer, most everything else I can do with the phone, right? I can run somebody through a basic application. I can answer questions. I can do a lot even just through my phone, even answer an email just through my phone. So provided that there's, if there's actually something that I need to do at 6 a.m., I can probably do it from the gym and still have plenty of computer time and not have it really interfere with my life at all. So I've found the balance for me personally to be rather easy. But you're right. It might look like a shorter amount of sleep, a smaller amount of sleep. And I actually made a video about that not too long ago as far as what are some of the secrets for waking up early? Well, two things that I can think of is, one, you have to have a reason. I think a lot of times people want to wake up early just for the sake of, it sounds cool. Oh, I just want to be an early bird. I've found in my own personal experience that that's not enough of a drive, enough of a reason to actually wake up early and enjoy it. And then the second one, and this is the other one that knocks out a lot of people, is you're not going to get 8 hours every night. It's important. I recommend that you do. But you're probably not going to actually get 8 hours, get the full 8 hours of sleep every single night. Get over it. It's okay. You will live.
Yeah, like once I started really taking off with my media company, I felt that 100%. I went from getting like 10 hours of sleep all the way down to 7 hours. And I got used to that and understanding that, I was personally blessed that I've always been an early bird. So I never had to like implement that regimen. I believe that the 5 a.m. wake up time is the most efficient because you're getting your activities done for the day. So there's a psychology behind it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, like I do cold plunge after my cardio, and cardio is after I've done finished training. So having that mental strength for the day, like that's my mental discipline that I've already achieved. Mm-hmm. So my body's physically stress relieved because I've exerted that energy. And then the last thing you have left is your mental, which is like just doing your work. Mm-hmm. But if you leave it to the end of the day, you're too tired mentally, it's not as effective. So.
Most of my workouts prior to rather recently actually used to be in the evening. I was no stranger to a midnight workout, an 11 p.m. workout. I used to do that all the time. I transitioned into morning, and I've grown to love it. One of the other big reasons why I love it, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this one, is my old schedule. If I didn't work out really late at night, I would try to sneak out during like a work lunch break, right? It's like, okay, noon, I'm going to go and get a quick workout in, be back on my computer, work as late as I have to. The only problem is it's noon and people need me a lot more at noon, right? So a lot of times, just like I said, I'm blessed but cursed that I technically can work at any given time. So I might be at the gym. I'm still working, right? So if somebody calls me, a client has a question on something, I stop everything that I'm doing. I find a nice quiet spot and I just sit there and I talk to the client for 20, 30 minutes. Pump's gone. Great. But client's more important. So that happened enough times where it's like, okay, this is obviously not efficient, right? But when you're working out at 5 a.m., nobody bothers you at 5 a.m. You kind of grow to love that. My phone's not going off, no emails, no nothing. It is so peaceful and so nice. And then by the time I'm done with my workout, I'm home. The emails are still not even coming in. The phone calls, the texts are still not even coming in. It's bliss.
Right. I totally agree. Yeah, because you got to catch yourself at a time when you can actually properly meditate. Because if the meditating gets disrupted, then it kind of ruins your rhythm for the day. Mm-hmm. So that's great.
I'm glad you used the word meditate because honestly, I feel that every single time that I'm at the gym. I zone out completely. It's funny because when you start working out or when you're new to the gym, you go into a gym and again, I'd have to go back as far as being 12 years old to remember what it's like to feel uncomfortable at a gym. I've been comfortable at a gym for such a long time, but I do have to try to think back to then and be like, okay, well, if I don't know how to use a machine, I don't know what I'm doing. You feel awkward and you almost feel like everybody's looking at you. At this point, and this has happened to me a lot. Somebody, like a friend of mine might be at the gym, like waving at me. And unless they're like maybe 5 feet in front of me, I'm not looking at anybody that's in the gym. I am so locked in. It's just hilarious. When you're new, you assume everybody's looking at you. Once you're a veteran, the gym might as well be empty.
Oh, exactly. I totally agree. You're just doing your own thing and minding your own business. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Ryan, so much for coming on to Conan's Cave. It was a pleasure interviewing you and chopping it up with you, man. Thanks again.
Oh, we got to do it again. I'll talk fitness all day.
Yes, sir. And that wraps it up for Conan's Cave, guys. I'll see you guys next time.
Take care.